Violence, abuse, exploitation, neglect and exclusion. Those 5 words summarise a lot of experiences of a lot of our fellow Australians who live with disability.
The message of this report is clear. We do need to do better.
It's taken 4.5 years and evidence from over 10,000 Australians.
The one thing I really want to do with my life is make a world where nobody with disabilities has to suffer in the same ways I have.
Now, the Disability Royal Commission has tabled their final report. The findings, horrific.
For people between 18 and 64 who have a disability, 55 in every 100 of these people reports physical or sexual abuse. There are 400 avoidable deaths each year.
222 recommendations have been made, including creating a Disability Rights Act to eliminate abuse and exploitation, implementing disability employment targets for public service hires, more funding for the National Disability Advocacy Program and insurance scheme appeals, establishing a federal minister for disability inclusion, and changing laws around involuntary sterilisation. Across 33 major public hearings and almost 1,800 private sessions, stories of bullying.
It was hellish. I was consistently excluded from activities, from more explicitly education, that is learning time, from playing time.
Abuse.
He was the only staff member who was rostered that night. He pulled off a doona and tried to use his hands to grope me. I struggled violently this time and I yelled at him to stop, but he didn't listen.
And neglect, even from medical professionals.
He said, "Oh, look, she has Down syndrome. How hard are you going to try?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut.
So, with 6 months on the clock for states and territories to respond, is this the first step towards a safer and more inclusive Australia for people with disabilities?
We are not victims of our own bodies, we are survivors.
Well, Green Senator Jordan Steele-John is on the Joint Standing Committee on the NDIS. Jordan, this has been a very long, incredibly arduous process. On a personal level, how do you feel seeing this report handed down today?
Well, today has been a day of a deep feeling of pride for me in the disability community and what we have achieved over the last 5 years through the course of this investigation, giving our evidence, sharing our experience and our expertise. We have done this work on the promise that doing so will lead to changes that will improve the lives of disabled people. And we have done so in a way that it's been led by disabled people for disabled people. As a result of that, we've got a report which reveals a lot of work to do, and we are now keen and really determined to see that work done.
Jordan, do you think that these recommendations go far enough?
Well, I think that there are a lot of recommendations in this report which point in the right direction that we need to go, particularly those recommendations made by the disabled commissioners around the need to end the segregation policies that we are subjected to as disabled people in work, in education and in employment. Those policies need to go. They need to be replaced with inclusion for everyone. They need to be replaced with fair wages, full minimum wages at least for all disabled people, inclusive schools and a variety of choice in housing. The disabled commissioners that were part of the investigation made recommendations that most closely align with the views of the disability community to end these segregated policies. And the Greens want to see, and it's my deep belief that we need to see, an end to segregated education, segregated housing and segregated employment by 2030. We need to do this with transition plans that are co-designed with parents, with disabled people, with experts and unions, and this work needs to be driven by a disability minister established at the federal level to lead and drive this work and ultimately to be held accountable by the disability community at the ballot box.
Can you give us an idea of some of the typical conditions that people would experience in group homes?
Well, let me give you an example of exactly what it looks like to live in a group home. Often this looks like being forced to live with somebody or many people that you don't know or have never met. Maybe they are not the kind of people that you would like to live with. Maybe you want to live on your own. Maybe you want to live with your partner or your family. You don't have those options. You're often separated from your community. You then potentially go to work in an Australian disability enterprise where you are paid $2 sometimes for your work, $2 an hour. Now, that is completely unacceptable. You should be able to choose where you want to live and who you want to live with, and you should be paid a fair wage for a fair day's work, just like every other Australian is guaranteed under the law.
Jordan, do you think we'll see long-lasting change come from this process?
I know now more than ever that the disability community is united in our demand for equality and our hope for change. All 4.4 million of us are committed to working with our allies in the community for this transformation that this report so clearly tells the entire community that is needed. Government now must come on board with us and join in a movement for disability justice.
Jordan, I know it's been such a massive day for you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.